right, so today's webinar title, have you ever asked a doctor what they think of medical billing? It's kind of a weird title. I thought it was kind of funny, but I talked to a lot of people on the phone who are looking into this business. They want to get into a new business, and they know that healthcare is a very strong industry to get into, but they're not sure if doctors really need medical billing services or some of the other services that we offer. And so a lot of people, they ask me, hey, I'm going to go out and talk to a bunch of doctors or try to find doctors and talk to them before I go through your program and see if I can maybe drum up some business or something. That's not a good idea. That's not a good idea. I understand, feeling like you want to kind of set things up, before you go through some sort of billing program like ours, but it's really tricky because you don't know what you don't know, and you could end up saying something wrong and not being able to answer certain questions about it. And well, anyway, today is your opportunity. Today is your opportunity to actually talk with a doctor who has outsourced her medical billing. And we're going to be talking about all kinds of other stuff today too. So this is really exciting. As we get into this, I want you guys to please interact with us. Any kind of question that comes to mind, type it into that Q&A box. If you type it into the chat, I'll try to look at the chat as well, but it's better if you do it in the Q&A box. I don't know why there's two different ways to chat. It's kind of weird, but let's see. I actually do see some other stuff. Can anyone see this from me? I am new to these. Yes, I think everyone can see those comments, Stan, I believe. So if you can, type into the Q&A section when you actually have questions for myself or Dr. Vicki, and we're going to be answering those as we go here. So let's just kind of go through. I've got a couple of intro slides. Let me minimize these boxes here. All right. Today's webinar is, have you ever asked a doctor what they think of medical billing? Today, you get a chance to do that. All right. I am Adam Phillips. I am the CEO of American Business Systems. And for those of you that don't know, this is a family business that my parents actually founded in 1994. They actually were doing medical billing from home in the 80s. Like, we've been doing this for a long, long time. I actually remember my mother using a typewriter to put paper claim forms into it and type away and fill out these claims. And any little thing that you do wrong, you have to pull it back out. You have to use this stuff called whiteout, where you actually, you can erase the typing with the whiteout, and then you put it back through the rollers, and then you type it again. And obviously that was a very highly inefficient way of doing it, but that was the only way to do it back then. Well, they eventually moved into electronic billing, and then eventually moved into cloud-based systems using the internet. So it's so much more efficient now and easier for you, and such better results now than what it was. But basically, they formed this company in 94 because they figured out how to, market medical billing services to doctors, how to build trust with them so that they want to work with you and be a client of yours. And so we started training other people, and including software and marketing materials and user manuals and all kinds of stuff to help people launch their own medical billing businesses in whatever part of the country they were in. So that's what we started in 94. Things are going really strong. We see growth year after year. I mean, it's really kind of strange. There's nothing that has gone on in the world that has caused our business or this industry to really dip in any severe fashion. I mean, it's always showing growth, no matter who's president, no matter what, no matter if there's a pandemic going on. And this business actually is one of the most pandemic friendly businesses that you can buy. Honestly, because everything is done remotely and virtually and cloud-based and all that good stuff. So just another reminder here, type in your questions as we go here, and we'll start answering them towards the end of the webinar. Let's talk about Vicki Ragnar. I'd like to introduce her. After retiring as a surgeon in 2000, she has dedicated her life to the idea that doctors need all the help they can get when it comes to money management. She is a nationally recognized speaker and author. She has literally written the book on connecting with and marketing to doctors. And many of the books that you see are provided to our ABS business owners to help them build their own credibility and trust with the doctors so that they can make those connections and get more clients. The book that we're going to be talking a little bit about today is the brand new book, my brand new book that was written with Dr. Ragnar, 9 Ways Doctors Let Money Slip Through Their Fingers. It's going to be another fantastic tool in your tool belt so that you can connect with doctors and start building your business as quickly as you can. She has been featured on many national networks and in publications like CNN, USA Today, NPR, and many more. She also regularly contributes to medical journals like Physician Money Digest and the Journal of Medical Practice Management. She has, for the past decade, she has helped business professionals accelerate their growth by attracting, engaging, and serving more doctor clients through her company, Engaging Doctors. This is her brand new website that she launched. She has helped hundreds of ABS business owners successfully build relationships with doctors. Dr. Vicki's secret sauce is offering a bridge between the world of business and the world of medicine. She has helped hundreds of ABS business owners cross over this bridge and successfully build business relationships with doctors. She also helps doctors cross over the bridge and run their practices with both a heart of service and a mind for business through her company, Thriving Doctors. And she's got a great podcast on that website for doctors. It's seen a lot of success and a lot of happy doctors out there listening to that podcast. Last but not least, she also resides on the advisory board of the Medical Revenue Management Association of America, which is an organization that we founded to give our ABS owners more credentials and build trust with the doctors. That's what it's all about, folks. That's how you get business, is when you learn how to position yourself as an expert in the industry so that you can build trust, and then in turn, they want to do business with you. And that's what we help you accomplish. So if you haven't figured it out, she's a celebrity in my book. So let's go ahead and bring her on and see if she is still with us. Vicki, are you here today? Thank you so much for joining us.
I am. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. I'm so excited. You know that you're one of my favorite people, and your organization is some secret sauce helping doctors transform the kinds of results that they want. So it's always an honor and a pleasure to be here.
Yes, thanks, Vicki. So tell us what you got for us today.
All right. Well,
do I need to?
So here we go.
You do it? Okay, you did it. Okay, good.
All right. So my dog and I were taking a walk a couple of months ago, and I saw something you just don't see every day. A huge windstorm had blown through the area, and it had blown the dock from its mooring. And, you know, I spoke with the city person who was down there, and I said, how are you going to fix this? He said, I don't know. We've never been here before, but I really trust that we're going to be able to figure this out. And I thought, what a perfect metaphor for, you know, the COVID pandemic that has sort of swept through. So if you are wondering, you know, how do I get back to my own personal mooring? Or what is it that I really want? Or can ABS help me translate my dream into reality? You are in the right place. So in this webinar, I will share my own experience about being in private practice and what that was all about. But I'm really here for you because I recognize that you're most likely here because you're looking at a couple of doors of opportunity. And I would love if you would leave this tutorial with a better sense of what's important to you, what you would really like, and what the best way to get there. So is ABS the right door for you to go behind? Now, I've been on webinars like this myself, right? I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm always looking for opportunities. And what I recognize is that usually the person who's delivering the webinar has something to sell. But I just want to let you know that I have nothing to sell today. Yes, I have a relationship with ABS because they are good people doing good things in the world, but I have no financial skin in the game here. I'm not on commission. Whether or not you decide to become an ABS licensee is between you and ABS. I'm here for you to help you make better decisions for yourself. So the 3 questions I'd really like to answer is, number 1, do I want a business in the medical market? Adam and his dad, Patrick, and I have been delivering these webinars for years now. And what I know from these years of experience is that a lot of people like you who are here right now might be looking at different business. Maybe you're looking at a Subway franchise. Maybe you're thinking about running a UPS store. So there are a lot of options. Does it make sense to look at an option in the medical market? Second question, do you want to help doctors run their practices like businesses and benefit and grow when they do? Because as you know, your revenue, your own income as an ABS licensee is tied to a doctor's income. So if you are doing billing for an orthopedic surgeon who takes home $575,000 each year, that means that they are billing more, correct? Because they've got to pay their overhead before they bring that money home. And wouldn't it be great to have your revenue tied in that way to a doctor's revenue? And third, and I really advise this as you're looking at opportunities, is there a proven path to success? So I am happy to be here. And I was telling Adam right before we began, I keep this little magic wand right here next to my workstation as a reminder that I am here to help people get what they want. And in so doing, I become more successful. So are you interested in helping a doctor achieve a transformation, and in so doing, transform your own life? And does it make sense to think about doing that by acquiring more doctor clients? So I have been doing this for about a decade. I've been helping business people grow by engaging more doctor clients. And, here is something that one of my clients has to say about me.
We've been working with Dr. Vicki for several months now, and it's been an incredible experience. In fact, we have grown so much. We're in the middle of a growth spurt right now. I think that we're going to probably triple our revenue this year. And I am so thankful and appreciative of the mentorship and the coaching that has come from Dr. Vicki, not only helping us to target physicians better, but also how to speak to physicians. It helps in our closing process. It actually helps in every aspect of what we're doing right now, from bringing in our clients to taking them through the whole sales process and closing them, and even dealing with the physicians as clients. I understand their needs a lot better. I understand their mentality a lot better, the psychology behind it, the emotional part of it. She's just so valuable. I can't even put a dollar amount to it. So Dr. Vicki, we appreciate you on a personal level and a business level. And I look forward to the future, continuing to work with you. Thank you so much for all you do. I highly recommend you. Highly, highly recommend you. Thank you so much.
All right, so imagine thinking about a year and a half from now saying, wow, my business tripled. So what's a surgeon doing helping people build their businesses by acquiring doctor clients? Well, if my life had a bumper sticker, it would probably read Heal Thyself. I was in a graduate program. When I had a surgical emergency, I was bleeding internally. By the time the surgeons finally got in, about half of my blood volume was in my pelvis. I thought, this is the end. And I was so grateful to wake up I knew I was going to be a doctor, save other people's lives like my own had been saved. And I'm sorry, you might hear the trucks in the background. I'm sorry about that. Not surprisingly, I became a surgeon. I went into private practice in Seattle. When I first got out of my residency, I joined another surgeon, and he had been a solo practitioner for years and years and years. He had one office person who did everything for him, the scheduling, the billing, everything. And when I joined, I started asking some questions about, okay, how does this billing thing work? How do I get paid? And not too long after I joined the practice, she quit. In retrospect, I think what was probably happening was that she had been embezzling from the practice. And with my questions, she kind of wondered if she was going to get caught. So she left with 2 weeks' notice. And what were we going to do about billing? Well, I remember my partner's wife, Stephanie, saying, this billing stuff, like, how hard can it be? Why don't I just take some time for my tennis game to do this billing? And so she came in, and it was a complete mess. Instead of taking money out of the practice, we had to make owner investments to pay taxes. So we looked around and we hired somebody who did billing. Well, not too long after that, I was invited to set up a practice at a second hospital. They were forming a multidisciplinary breast clinic, and I wanted to be part of that. So I moved my main practice over there, and the first decision I made was I was going to outsource my billing. I never wanted to be in a situation again where I had to worry about, am I going to have to make an investment in the business, or can I take money from the business to pay my mortgage? In retrospect, that turned out to be the best business decision that I made. So all doctors, all hospitals, all clinics generate revenue the exact same way. They see patients, they assign a diagnostic and procedure code to each encounter. These bills get sent to the insurance company. The insurance company reject about 30% of the claims. The cynics will say they do this as a business practice so they can hang on to their money longer and make money with that money. So they reject about 30% of the claims. In a busy practice, patient care comes first. And so there are a lot of practices that will just not follow up on these rejected claims. I remember the first year I was in practice, my CPA actually said, don't worry about those rejected insurance claims. This is a great tax write-up. You need a tax write-up. Well, yes, that is true. And there's probably smarter business decisions to make than that. So remember, the person in the practice who's doing the billing is generally sort of a minimum wage kind of worker. They want to make their doctors happy. And, they don't have a whole lot of incentive to follow up on these claims. So there are a lot of doctors who are leaving a lot of money on the exam table. And some of them may have been told exactly the same thing that I was told by the CPA. Don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It's a tax write-off. But I will tell you how and why they're thinking differently of things. So in 2000, I traded my scalpel for a pen and a microphone. I had a message that I wanted to bring. And so I changed from, being in private practice to true entrepreneurship. So I've launched any numbers of businesses. Some of them have done great. Some of them have been big fails. So when I share with you the kinds of questions that I ask before I make an investment, it's through my experience that I suggested. And, I'll often tell my clients whom I coach that really the reason that I can be so effective as a coach is I've made pretty much every mistake an entrepreneur can make. So I can see around those corners. I know what the pitfalls to avoid are. Well, once I made this transition, I struggled and struggled and struggled. I invested in coaches and mentors. I once calculated that I've actually invested more in my sales and marketing training than I have in medical school. Well, I remember going over to Europe on a speaking engagement. I went to plug in my laptop. But of course, you can't do that directly in Europe because Europe is wired differently than the US. I thought, this is it. I, as a doctor, am wired differently than business-minded people. And if I want to plug into them, if I want to connect with them, I need to build this adapter. I get better results. And I did, and I did. So as Adam was mentioning to you, this ability to plug into my buyer really transformed my results. And so this is what I'm all about. I'm about people crossing the bridge from the world of business to the world of medicine. And of course, it goes both ways. So main point here, doctors are wired differently. Okay, so then 2008 rolls around. And I hear more and more of my clients, more and more of my doctor colleagues talking about their very difficult time. Did you know that there were doctors who filed for bankruptcy in 2008? There were doctors who were dipping into their retirement fund in order to meet their payroll. This was a tough time. So I got kind of interested in doctors and their relationship with money. So I've spoken with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of doctors about their money stories. And I summarized some of the trends that I found in this book, The Myth of the Rich Doctor. And Adam, how about if we give everyone on the line a complimentary digital copy of this book? We can figure out how to get it to the participants a little later.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's very generous of you. Yeah, we can do that. That's great.
It's my pleasure. So what you'll find in there is some deeper insight about really what drives doctors' choices. And I'm going to just say something right here and right now. That is that you know more about business and how money works than most doctors. So there is value that you can deliver and you can make a difference. Like imagine this doctor who's just writing off 30% of their revenue. And maybe they've got cash flow issues. You could potentially come in and turn that around. So anyway, I had witnessed all of these issues with doctors and money. And, you know, I'm here to make a big impact, right? I want to leverage my efforts. And I asked myself, what's my high leverage move? And I thought, well, gee, you can't really do anything until you have a solid financial foundation. Doctors need this financial advice. They need financial help. And I was not the one to do it. But I thought, what if I could help people build business relationships with doctors? That's probably, you know, how I can make the biggest impact. So I have been doing this for over a decade. And if you go to the Engaging Doctors site, you'll find all sorts of testimonials about people who have successfully built businesses by working with doctors. Okay, so with all of the options out there with UPS and Subway and, you know, maybe owning a car wash, why might you be interested in working with doctors? Well, here are a couple of answers. The first is Sutton's Law. When Willie Sutton was asked, why do you rob banks? He said, that's where the money is. And the medical market really is where the money is. According to the US Department of Labor Statistics, 10 out of the 10 highest earners in the US call themselves doctor. So Medscape, and you can sign up for a free Medscape account. Every year they do a physician compensation review. And so here are some average numbers of the kinds of earnings that most doctors can expect. Now, these are just means. So there are a lot of people who are doing a lot better. I have a buddy who's a primary care doctor and she's entrepreneurial. And she runs a 7-figure primary care business in which she has numbers of satellites all over her city. So even though the mean family medicine person makes $236,000 a year, she's generating 7 figures. Plus, there's the numbers. There's about 1 million practicing physicians. About 40% are age 50 or older. So this is where people need help. But here is the big number. Even before the COVID pandemic started, about half of doctors were behind in retirement planning. So they were wondering, am I going to have to work until I'm 70 in order to maintain my lifestyle? And clearly, if you're worried about retirement, what that means is that you've got to get really, really serious and focused about revenue generation. And that's where you come in. As we know, the COVID pandemic has really changed the landscape of the world of business. Unfortunately, there were wonderful people with wonderful businesses that simply will never revive again. As Adam was saying, the medical market is rock solid. As we were recovering from the Great Recession, the medical market was one of the first to recover. We will always need our doctors. Yes, it is true that you can, or you could go to Thailand or India and get your hip replaced. But most people want to seek medical care in their own community. So I don't think that this is an industry that will ever go away, no matter what happens to our economy, no matter what happens politically. This is rock solid. And if the COVID pandemic taught us anything, it's we want to make smart choices and imagine the what ifs, especially as we're launching into a new career phase. Further, doctors are very loyal clients. So once you get a doctor client, you're probably going to have that doctor client for life. But here's the best part. Doctors gossip, kind of like teenage girls. So I told you that I went out and I set up that second practice. I decided I was going to outsource my billing. And what did I do? I went into the doctor's dining room and started asking people, hey, do you do your own billing or have you hired somebody? And when they said, no, I hired somebody, I would say, well, do you like this person? I love her. And when the same name kept on coming up over and over again, guess who I wound up hiring? So not only can you get profitable doctor clients, but there's a magic that can happen. So your goal is to be the go-to guy or go-to gal among targeted groups of doctors that network together, that share resources like this. So what you want to do, the end game, is to achieve what I call escape velocity. We know that civilians are being launched into space now. And the rocket ship that takes them out into the space uses most of the fuel to overcome the gravitational pull of the Earth. Once they've escaped that, it's pretty much clear sailing. So yes, you will invest to get those first few doctor clients, and ABS will show you exactly how to do it. But think about that doctor telling a buddy about you, and that doctor telling that buddy about you. So word can spread. And then once you achieve this escape velocity, your major marketing work is answering the phone where a doctor says, hey, I hear you did a good job for Dr. Parkhurst, who's right down the hall from me. Are you taking new clients? Doctors behave kind of like tropical fish. We tend to swim together and move together under the direction of a leader. And we do this for the same reason tropical fish do. It offers a mechanism to protect us from the predators. So you're probably not the only people who have figured out that doctors are high earners. And if you're a financial predator, these are great prey. We physicians tend to be trusting. And most physicians have gotten involved with some dumb doctor deals. we've been taken advantage by predators. I personally lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in these dumb doctor deals. And so, as Adam said, trust is a huge thing. The rate at which your practice grows is the rate at which you build trust. And the most influential person in a doctor's life is another doctor. So once you get doctors talking about you and sharing the story of transformation, that's really how your business skyrockets. Okay, I will tell you that every year in January, I do this, State of the Union address, because I've been doing this long enough so that I know that the things that used to work aren't necessarily the things that are working today. And never have I seen as profound of a change as I saw in 2020. So let me share with you some of the factors that are impacting doctors' lives so you will understand how and why this is your moment. All right, so of course, the driver of most of these changes is the COVID pandemic. Physicians were risking their lives to see patients. There were physicians who did lose their lives. There were physician long haulers. There were physicians who were doing crazy things like, instead of going home and being with their families, they would actually stay at the hotel so that they wouldn't expose their families to COVID. So this has been huge. I came into medical school around the time that HIV was first being understood and the AIDS epidemic was coming into being. I think people are more frightened now than they were back then. The COVID pandemic has had a huge impact on physicians' economics, and let me explain why. If you think about what the major therapeutic intervention has been over the past 17 or so months, we are all at home in an effort to decrease transmission of the virus so that the demand for healthcare resources did not exceed the supply. COVID is a respiratory illness. You remember when we were wondering, are we going to have enough ventilators for all of the COVID patients? Well, every time I operated on a breast cancer patient, that patient went on a ventilator. So across the country, hospitals decided, you know what, we are just going to close down our elective cases and just use all of our healthcare resources for COVID patients. So in some parts of the world, breast cancer was considered elective. Well, these elective cases are the engines that drive profitability of both individual practices and also hospitals and clinics. So in April of last year, the Mayo Clinic, that's the single largest employer in the state of Minnesota, was projecting a $3 billion, B with the B, shortfall. And they responded to that proactively with across the board pay cuts. Well, let me wind back history a little bit and just sort of let you in on another kind of conversation. So when I got out of residency, about 80% of physicians went into private practice. We're entrepreneurial. We want to be our own boss. I mean, there are very few physicians who want a boss, who want somebody telling them what to do. Well, not too long after I went into my own private practice, managed care came into being. And this was a very, very challenging time for physicians. I mean, suddenly it felt like there were three people in the exam room. There was the doctor, the patient, and now the insurance company. And it was a real pain in the you-know-where. So hospitals went to physicians and said, listen, you're a doctor, you want to take care of patients. Let us buy your practice. We'll take care of all the business things. So all you have to do is practice medicine. And there were a whole bunch of doctors who said yes. So by maybe 2005, the balance between the percentage of doctors in private practice and the employed physician changed to about 50-50 and continued to evolve until in 2018, in many communities, about 80% of physicians were employed and 20% of physicians were in private practice. And these employed doctors, if you want to hear an unhappy doctor, talk to a boomer doctor who's now employed. They feel like they kind of sold their souls. You know, they were looking for certainty and they paid a huge price for it. But now with the COVID pandemic, the security that they thought they had, like the bottom fell out of it. There were employed physicians whose contracts were terminated. There were doctors who were furloughed. There were other doctors who had across the board pay cuts. In, you know, sort of the premier hospital in Boston, the hospital stopped making matching contributions to the doctor's retirement fund. So it's sort of like doctors' worlds are turned upside down and inside out. During this time, there were surgeons whose incomes were cut by 80 to 90% because all of these elective cases had been canceled. So I'm a fellow of the American College of Surgeons, and they really stood up and assumed a leadership role during the COVID pandemic. And I would get invitations to webinars that like blew my mind, that were like economic survival strategies for the COVID world. And it's sort of like, should you file for bankruptcy? There were also physicians in private practice for whom 2020 was the best year ever. But what we're seeing right now is surgeons and all sorts of physicians just sort of looking around like, what just happened? And what am I going to do? So we're now seeing this trend from employed physicians to physicians who want to take back their autonomy and take back their control. And they know that they've got to run their businesses, their practices like a business. So every year, Medscape does a physician compensation report. And so what we know is that a lot of physicians took a hit in 2020. Then they asked this really interesting question. Well, when will you return to your pre-COVID income levels? About 40% said, oh, in the next year, 40% in the next 2 to 3 years. But check this out. 10% said never. All right, next change that happened is that doctors got to do telemedicine visits. This technology has been around for forever, but for the first time, we figured out a way to get paid for it. And so doctors saw that you really can form meaningful relationships virtually. And ABS licensees are also discovering that because doctors are now thinking in this way, they can build business relationships with doctors virtually. So what does that mean? That means that your prospecting area isn't necessarily any doctor who's within a half-hour drive of your office. Now, as we said in the operating room, the whole world is pre-op. I mean, you could potentially work with doctors anywhere. Next thing that's happening is that doctors are very social beings. The doctors who are at home instead of at the hospital are now gathering around the social water cooler. So if you think of LinkedIn as the professional platform for networking, you are right. And it turns out that there's a whole LinkedIn just for doctors. It's called Doximity. You've got to be a doctor to join. And this is going to blow your mind. Here's where the doctors are gathering. On Facebook and Instagram, like who would have imagined, right? And the reason that they're gathering there is that Facebook allows you to form these private groups so that the administrator can make sure that there are just doctors in the group, because doctors want to be able to have free conversation without being eavesdropped by somebody who's a patient or somebody who just wants to sell them something. But because doctors are on their social media platform, that means that they're congregating in a place. If you were thinking about going out fishing, you would want to find the fishing holes. So these are now fishing holes. And I am helping people successfully network with doctors with whom they want to create a business relationship. I remember I was talking with one of my financial advisors who really deals with very, very elite physicians. He said, nah, I don't want to go on Facebook. Oh, my clients aren't on Facebook. And the next day I got a text from him. He had just spoken with one of his doctor colleagues who just bought $1 million mortgage from somebody he met on Facebook. He said, okay, you're right, Dr. Vicki, let's talk about Facebook. The next thing that's important for you to understand is that there is an epidemic of burnout and suicide among physicians. Every year, Medscape does a survey of this too, and just the title tells you a lot: Death by 1,000 Cuts. So they did a survey about how many physicians experience burnout, toxic stress. They don't want to go to the office. And they found that the incidence of burnout in 2019 was about the same as 2020. It was 42% of physicians. About 80% said that their burnout predated the COVID pandemic, and 20% said the COVID pandemic was the straw that broke the camel's back. But here's something interesting. They then asked the question, which would help most to reduce your burnout? 45% said increase compensation to avoid financial stress. Okay, so let's put that back to back with this other slide that you just saw about physicians' optimism that they are actually going to increase their level of income. And you see that you've got a chicken and egg thing going on here, right? So doctors hold this belief that they took a hit, it's going to be a while before they recover, they're burned out, but in order to recover from burnout, they need to generate more revenue. Well, guess what? ABS licensees can break this cycle, because what if you could show doctors how they could put more money in their pocket, not by seeing more patients, but by simply collecting what they're owed. So I don't think there has been a better time to think about bringing this kind of value that every doctor in private practice needs. So next question is, who can help me take the proven path to success? Okay, so no matter what business you jump into, you are going to go through a business cycle, right? At the very beginning, you're going to invest work to see the rewards later. Doctors are a little different than business-minded people. So generally, the barrier to entry is a little higher, and ABS helps its licensees lower the barrier to entry, so that high barrier can actually work in an ABS licensee's advantage, because that keeps out the competition who don't necessarily know how to do this. They also show you how you can accelerate the building phase by quickly building trust. There's some neuromarketing ideas that are very, very powerful. But one of the things that happens with ABS licensees is that they can harness the most influential force in a doctor's life because they have access to me. I, as a physician, can speak peer-to-peer to physicians. So the ABS licensees get to be under the umbrella of my credibility, because Adam showed you that book. I mean, our names are going to be tied together, and that really accelerates trust building. And then we will show you how to achieve this escape velocity, about how to think big from the very beginning, so that you are going to build this business that is going to help you achieve your dreams, about achieving the financial security that you want, the time freedom that you want, by setting it up right from the very beginning. So, Hank Greenberg said so famously, all I want is an unfair advantage. I believe that doing business with doctors follows neither the B2B nor the B2C model. I call it the B2D blueprint. It's a set of strategies and tactics that will help you achieve success, taking into account the difference in wiring for doctors. So you get strategies, You can find out the pitfalls to avoid so that you can achieve the success you want. And here is the key. It's understanding that doctors are wired differently than business-minded people. And I've always got to share this story. So if you've heard me before, I'm sorry, but I just love this story. Okay, so I, as a white coat, a doctor, wanted to become an entrepreneurial. I wanted to do business with suits, and I had a real challenge. And I sort of figured out that there are these different worlds, and I had to adapt what I was doing, what I was saying, thinking, in order to plug into my buyer. Well, when people come to me, they say, I don't get it. Like, I do great with business people, but what is it about doctors? Like, what is wrong here? Why can't I do that? Not understanding that their real challenge is that they don't have this little adapter. And does this really make a difference? Well, on my favorite episode of Shark Tank, a doctor enters the Shark Tank to get funding for his company, Syndaver. He sells synthetic cadavers. This is $1 billion industry. He'd made millions of dollars in sales. The sharks were all engaged. And I thought, this guy is going to get a 5-shark deal. But then the questions started. Mr. Wonderful said, tell us about your revenue. Tell us about your profitability. And there on national TV, the doctor said, well, I suppose I could make a lot of money, but money not really that important to me. Making a difference is what I'm really all about. And with that answer, 4 sharks were out. He got a deal with Robert Herjavec that fell apart in a couple of weeks. Now, what happened here? It wasn't the investment opportunity, right? This was a solid investment. The problem was that this doctor had said to the sharks, well, I guess you're interested in money, but I don't really care. I don't really care about that. What do doctors care about? They care about service. So this is why, figuring out how to specifically build your business by acquiring doctor clients is sort of its own thing. And what we know is that harnessing the power of physician evangelism is going to help you get there. So I am absolutely thrilled about this book Adam and I wrote. We have a long history of success in engaging doctors by giving them a yummy treat, by giving them content that they truly want. And we know that the doctors want this content, that they love it. Further, ABS licensees are able to distribute a letter of introduction that I write peer-to-peer to doctors. So if you just sent doctors a little flyer about your services, the office manager would probably throw it away, but they're not going to throw away a letter from another doctor. So my favorite business book this year is Who, Not How. And Dan Sullivan says, if you want to do something, probably the best thing that you naturally think about is how do I do this? How do I get more doctor clients? He said the more strategic question is to ask who. Who can help me do this? And whatever you decide to do, hopefully you will find your who's. Now, why am I here? It's because I believe in Adam and Patrick and all of the ABS family as the right who. These are people of integrity who have a genuine commitment to their licensees. Their licensees have a genuine commitment to helping doctors. So that is why I accepted the position of chair of the advisory board. If you're looking for business success, choose the right who's. And I believe that ABS is the right who for you that will help you find that pot of gold. All right, Adam, are there any questions here?
That was excellent presentation there, Dr. Vicki. Thank you so much for going through that. And hopefully that was helpful for some of you folks who were just not sure if this is a valid industry or something that you might want to get involved in. And hopefully this has helped answer some of those lingering questions about the health of the healthcare industry, if you will. And yeah, doctors, left and right are just struggling, like you said, with their private practices. They just want to practice medicine. They just want to practice medicine, and they don't go to school for business. And you talked a little bit about, I think you mentioned a little bit about doctors, not wanting a boss. And, there has been a trend where a lot of doctors were kind of giving up on private practice and going and working for hospitals. But now there's a trend in the other direction, because that wasn't all unicorns and rainbows like they thought it was going to be. And they have dictated hours and wages, and they're like, they feel like an employee, and they don't like that. So there's a lot of doctors that are now going back into private practice, but they're scared because they're like, I got to start all over, So that is what our ABS business owners can do for doctors, is they can help guide them in the process of starting over and say, look, let us take care of all this stuff that is not practicing medicine, and the stuff that you don't like to do, that we will help you with. So that's exactly what our owners are doing. Yeah. We did have, what's that?
I just did want to mention one other thing. I mean, can you imagine being somebody earning 7 figures, and you've got a 7-figure lifestyle, and suddenly your income goes down to 200,000? I think that if you've gone through that, and remember, for business people, they understand business downturns, but no physician ever expected that their income would do anything but go up over time. All right, so they are really scared. And a lot of them are thinking, okay, like, how do I diversify? How do I create multiple revenue streams so that if a COVID pandemic happens again, I'm going to be okay? And Adam, I just think it's brilliant that you are bringing new products and services that the licensees can bring to physicians to solve a problem that physicians are struggling with right now.
Yeah, well, I don't know about anybody else on this webinar, but when I hear 700,000 going to 200,000, I'm like, oh, boo-hoo, poor doctor. No, but there are doctors that in different specialties that are making a lot less than that overall. They're making a lot less, and it's also been reduced from that figure, that dollar figure. I'm just trying to speak to the lay person on this webinar who, those dollar amounts are kind of mind blowing, either way. But the point is whatever revenue a doctor was at before, now in these times, they're seeing big reductions, is your point, because of all the different things that are going on. And our owners, through the technologies that we have, the cloud-based integrated practice management, billing, EHR platforms, all the different services, the coding service, the audit reviews, they have been able to help doctors increase their annual revenue in terms of 20, 30% in some cases, sometimes even more. So that's what we do for doctors. And so that really was a good point. But we do have some good questions that have come in. If we have time, yeah, we do have some time. So let's do it. Daryl says, I have no medical experience. I'm an investor and I'm interested in profit margin. I don't mind learning any industry I invest in. Is this for me? 100% yes, Daryl. One thing that we didn't really mention on this webinar is your role can be whatever you want it to be in this business. So some of our bigger producers, our owners that they have staff doing the claim processing, they may have some sales reps, they've got office space, retail office space, the whole 9 yards, and they are the manager, the owner of the business. So that's something that certainly could be an option for you. Heck, you could just be a silent investor in this, and you could have a business manager. So there's all kinds of possibility for someone like you, but we have designed this opportunity for people to come in who have never been in healthcare, never done billing, nothing, and we can teach you exactly how to do it and make the business grow. So hopefully that helps. Amy, she may not have heard the first part of your story, Dr. Vicki, on the webinar. She says, Vicki, I see you have completed medical school and residency, but have you ever practiced medicine?
Yes.
Yes, she has. Yeah, so that was a little bit of her story at the beginning of the webinar there. All right, so we've got one from Dominic. I am interested in how long it will take to get my first doctor or practice and start seeing a return on my investment? How long is the software training? Is there a guarantee that ABS will help me obtain my first doctor or practice? And what is the estimated time to do so? Thank you. Dominic, excellent questions. I'm glad you asked those. So the first part is, it's different for everybody in how much time and effort they put into this business in the beginning. The training, let's start with the training. The training is done online with a live instructor, and it's done privately with you and the instructor. So we work around your schedule, but it's 10 modules that are 90 minutes apiece. So you end up with 15 hours of your initial training. That could take about 3 weeks or so to get through all of those sessions, depending on your schedule. Once that's completed, you receive your CMRM certificate, which means you will be a certified medical revenue manager, okay? And then our number one goal at that point is to work with you to get as many clients, not only your first client, but as many clients as you want or need for your business. So we actually give you lifetime training and support that never expires. So not only are we going to do all the marketing steps that we have and help you to get your first client, but we're going to help you with every single possible client that you run across. We're going to help you do an analysis of their practice. We're going to do a full software demo for the practice. We help you put together your proposals with your pricing, your agreements. We're there every step of the way to get them to sign. The average time to get your first client after training it can vary greatly, but it's anywhere from 60, 90 days. For some people, it takes longer. Some people are doing it part-time, so it's going to take you longer to get your name out there. But it's a matter of months after the training to get your first contract. So hopefully that helps. Dominic also says, how do we ramp up from having no clients to taking on a doctor with no prior billing experience? What is the success rate of this? Well, again, everyone is different, but we show you exactly, and hopefully you got some good information on this webinar about how we help you position yourself as someone who is more experienced than others out there. And so it's all a matter of how you position and how you present yourself to the doctors. We're going to help you present yourself as a consultant and a revenue cycle management consulting firm, which is kind of a mouthful, but it lets the doctors know that you are doing a lot more than just medical billing, because they have a lot of other issues going on out there, and you can help in a lot of different ways. You're also going to be able to tell them that you are part of a national network of offices all across the country, and we process thousands of claims every day. You'll tell them that you're a new office locally in your area, but you're a part of this national network, and you're going to have these different books that we've mentioned. You're going to have the introductory letter from Vicki. We can give references if the doctors want to talk to other doctors using the system. All kinds of things designed to build up your credibility and build the trust with the doctors. So that's how we do it. Amy says, is insurance still covering telehealth as much as they did in the beginning of the pandemic? As far as I know, they are. And I know that they relaxed the rules in terms of what softwares they can use, like Zoom and GoToMeeting and all that, and FaceTime and all that other stuff. Have you heard of anything changing with the telehealth rules, Vicki, or is it?
I haven't. And, there are a number of states that are going back into shutdown. So they're canceling elective cases because of the Delta variant. So I think that the future is uncertain, and I think that telehealth will be compensated for a while. Plus, I think doctors and patients really love it. I don't think it's going to go away.
Yeah, and they're still allowed to use all the different Zoom and all that stuff, right? They haven't changed those rules back to more strict.
That I don't know, but I just think it's a good practice to use a secure network. I mean, whether or not it's allowed, I think it's just a smart medical practice.
I agree. And we actually have tools. We actually have telehealth built into our iClaim platform, which is highly secure, and it's recommended over the free stuff like Zoom and stuff like that. So if they're using the built-in telehealth and built into our platform, absolutely covered under insurance. Yeah, for sure. So hope that helps. Wei is asking, I'd like to see what you say about this, Dr. Vicki. Do you think it's good to approach my own family doctors? How do you approach your own doctor? What are your
Okay.
thoughts on that?
So here's what I would do with your own doctor. You need to position yourself as an insider, right? You need to know how doctors conduct themselves and what the rules are, what the etiquette is. In the medical field, once there is a doctor-patient relationship that excludes any other personal or professional relationship. So what I would do if I were a fresh licensee is I would take a book. I mean, I've got the Myth of the Rich Doctor right here. And I would write a little thank you note. Dear doctor, thank you for your medical care. Here's how you made a difference in your life. You might not know this about me, but I actually help doctors in private practice achieve optimal financial health. Should you know any doctors who would like a copy of this book or who would like to figure out how to actually collect the money that they are owed from an insurance company, please invite them to contact me. I've got all sorts of yummy treats for them. So if a doctor wants to raise their hand and say, what about me? Of course you can work with them. But by doing this, if you know any doctors, what that says is, I get it. I'm a medical insider. I understand how things work. And, that's a great way of getting word out. And this book, I can already tell you, I've got the content of this book, in other places. Doctors love this content, especially right now. So it's going to be a great yummy treat for the ABS licensees.
So let the books do the talking, is what you're saying.
The books, and also just this gratitude, letting a doctor know how they've made a difference in your life. And then this message of reciprocation. Well, look, you have this skill, you have helped me in this way, but you know what? Financial health is important too. And that's sort of what I do. And this is how I do it.
Yeah. And for those of you who are sitting here thinking, I don't know if a doctor's going to read a whole book, you're right. They are very busy people. And so that's why we are actually going to show you how to highlight and bookmark certain sections that are going to be the most important in the books that we have, as well as some of our books are currently being converted to audiobooks, I believe. Is that right? Some of them.
It is. But let me just say that even if the doctor doesn't read the book, it's still helping with expert positioning, right?
Yep. You're exactly right.
It's holding on to this book, and they're going to know that you gave it to them. And so the value of that expert positioning gets conferred to you. And that is the most important piece.
Yeah. And it's really funny. I've heard from multiple of our licensees that a doctor has actually thought that the licensee wrote the book, and they had to clarify, no, I didn't write it. It was written by Dr. Vicki or, somebody at ABS. So it's just kind of funny because just getting that book, they feel like, oh, wow, this licensee knows their stuff, So yeah, that's good. A couple more questions here, and then I think we're done. Daryl is asking if a doctor works in a specific institution where there's a contractual agreement in their terms of employment that the particular institution do the in-house billing with a company associated with that particular institution. So I think he's saying if they're working for a hospital or some big organization, how are they doing the billing for the doctor, or are they able to do their own billing? My understanding is that typically you're probably going to see that the hospital is doing the billing for the doctor. There may be circumstances where they are kind of a hybrid approach and they are allowed to find their own billing companies. I don't know. Do you have any extra thoughts on that?
Yeah. So we're talking about a couple of different models here. One is, who offers the paycheck. So a doctor in private practice will take home what they earn. An employed physician is guaranteed a salary. So if a physician is employed, then it's the hospital's responsibility to do the billing and, collect from the insurance company. However, there are some cases whenever I operated, I need to have privileges at a hospital, right? So I had privileges at Northwest Hospital in Seattle. There were employed physicians who worked there So the hospital would take care of the billing, but I was in private practice. So I took care of my own billing. So there are some places, like if you're with a Kaiser or Group Health, you know doctors are employed, but in the community, you don't necessarily know what the doctor's relationship to the institution is. And so you can sort that out, but ABS licensees generally work with doctors who have an ownership stake in the practice.
Yeah, good stuff. All right. And Dominic is saying, will you send out a copy of this to share with family? Yes, we are recording this, Dominic. So get back to your ABS rep that sent you the invite. If you don't know who that was, you can call our support, our main line, which is 866-565-8413. We can get you pointed in the right direction there. But yes, we do record these, and usually they're posted up on our website Thursdays, so tomorrow sometime.
Okay.
Thank you.
May I just say one thing?
Sure.
I do not mean to be insensitive when I have transparent conversations about physicians' revenue. I recognize that there are people who have lost their businesses, and my heart does go out with them. So Adam, I was just really taken by yours. Well, can we relate to a doctor who was making 700,000? I'm hoping ABS licensees make 700,000.
Yeah.
But the point is that you might want to be careful about the people in the general public that you're having this conversation. When this book, Myth of the Rich Doctor, started out as a blog post on LinkedIn, oh man, did I get hate. So I consider everyone on the line kind of an insider. So we use our inside voices. But if you're just talking with your family, if you're talking at a dinner party, you want to use different language. And I'm sorry if that blew people away. I did not mean to be insensitive here.
No, I don't think it was taken that way. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that that's a massive reduction in your revenue. No matter what you're making annually, if you see a 70% reduction in your revenue, that hurts really bad, So, all right. Well, thank you everybody for being on here. Just a couple of more points. If you guys are wondering what next steps to take, visit our website, absystems.com. We have a research guide that you want to download and review. It's a 60-page PDF document, goes into a lot of detail on the business and how it works. Next steps would be references. We can let you talk to some of our business owners, ask for that. We can also give you a demo of the platform that I've been talking about, the iClaim and EMRX software platforms and how they work. Then after that, you want to review our agreement. We can send you our agreement to review it. It's a very simple 4-page training and support agreement. And then you start your training. You fill that out, pay your funding, and start the training. And that's it. And then we'll get you on your way. So thank you very much, Dr. Vicki, for your time today. Excellent presentation. And we do these every week, guys. So if you can sign up for our webinar next week, I'm going to be interviewing one of our business owners, Chris Harper, next Wednesday at 4:00 Central. So you don't want to miss that. So thanks, everybody. Thanks, Vicki.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me, and best of luck, everyone on the line. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.